Welcome back, everybody, to another thrilling episode of Thrive Your Program with Coach 2J. This is your host, Jeremy Jones. We're talking about week 20, Thursday, May 16th. So, for context, we want people to understand abdominal bracing and stride length when doing loaded carries. Now, whether we're doing an overhead carry kind of magnifies it, but when we're doing a sandbag carry or something like that, one thing that we want to point out is, when you get this big load on the back, is that what can happen is that when people take too large of strides, especially if they have tight hip flexors and they're not engaging their abs and using their glutes properly, we tend to see a hyperextension of the lumbar, and so this can cause a lot of back issues. And sometimes it won't happen during the workout, and it'll happen like days later. But just make sure that people are not taking too big of steps. Now this is especially true for these yoke carries, farmer carries. We want to make sure that we're keeping that pelvis, the bowl full. So if you imagine if this is someone's leg, and their pelvis, if the waist of their pants is here, and this is basically their pelvis. We want to make sure that they're not tipping water out the front. So imagine if this was a bowl full of water. If their back is in lordosis or hyperextension, that usually the front of their waist of their shorts or their pants is a lot lower than the back, and it looks like it looks more like this. And so that's what we want to avoid, right? We don't want to see this, and they need to engage their abs and their glutes to pull the hips back in position. And this is really hard to do as the leg goes back. Like I said, the tight hip flexors tend to pull that front back down again. So that's what we want to avoid. So especially when we're doing this skill practice warm up, and then we've got some sandbag stuff in the workout. Got a warm up here, basic stuff, and then we're doing some hip activation, and then we're going to spend 10 minutes working on these yoke carries. And again, aim for 50 feet. Try to get 5 to 7 sets, but 10 minutes is a long enough time. Again, it's usually best if you have people kind of go in groups of 3 or 4 per kind of barbell setup. Just have them do the barbell. You can have them do, they could do front rack, back rack, overhead carries, all those fun things. And then of course you can also have people do the thing where you hang kettlebells off of the, no, turn that off, where you have people hang. They have their plates, and then you use a band or whatever, and you hang a kettlebell. Yeah, that came out pretty good. Off of both sides. You wouldn't do it off to one side, you have both sides. And that just kind of creates a little bit more stability work that's required. It's a way to make it more challenging without necessarily just adding a ton more weight. But if people want to go with big weights, they can. If you have yokes, let people use the yokes, especially people who are using the big weights. And take lots of pictures and post them online for people so they can show their friends how cool they are from using a yoke. And then we've got another rowing workout. So we've got 2 substantially long rowing workouts this week. Part of this is because I wanted to do, again, these longer kind of time domain workouts, and rowing is one of the movements that doesn't make people as sore, right? So because there's no eccentric movement, so it is going to help people kind of recover, especially from the workout yesterday. Had lots of pull-ups, push-ups, and squats, which tend to promote a lot of soreness. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this rowing. We're going to take people in these longer time domains, but we're not causing as much tissue damage from the eccentric part of the movements. Now this one's also similar to Tuesdays in that we're going to do, it doesn't start with a rope climb, but it starts with a longish row. Now it should be about 4 to 5 minutes for this row, and then so that's going to give people 3 to 4 minutes to do this next part of the couplet here, where they're going to do a 100-meter sandbag run, and then hang power cleans either with a bar or with dumbbells. And then after the 8-minute cycle, they'll rest 2 minutes, and then they'll repeat. Right now, the setup here is that you're going to need half as many rowers as you do people at minimum, just because then you can stagger people that 5 minutes or so, because it's a 10-minute total cycle time with the 8 minutes plus 2 minutes rest. So if you stagger people 5 minutes, that's you can let them the second wave, they could be doing more yokes or whatever while the first wave gets going, so they're not just standing around for 5 minutes, and then you just have them alternate, right? So that first row should take, like I said, 5 minutes or less. Then the next person goes, when they're done at 5 minutes. If they don't finish their row in the 5 minutes, then they're scaling down, right? Because they need to be finishing that row in about 5 minutes. That's basically a, let's see, 5. Yeah, so a 5 minute pace would be a 2.5 minute 500 for two 500s consecutively, right? You know, a 5 minute pace for this is more like a 2:15 pace for the whole thing. So it should be very doable. You know, again, especially if we're coming off of the 2 minutes rest. But yeah, if you don't have enough rowers, then you can do the assault bike. Generally speaking, the assault bike is about 3/4 of a mile per 500. So this would be, you know, you could say, or 1.5 mile airdyne, right? And so people can alternate if they want to go back to that. I kind of prefer people do the row, but again, if you want to bring in the assault bikes, create more stations, go ahead and do that. So then we're going to do a sandbag run. Now, because of the timing of this, some people, you know, might get on that sandbag and they're running out of time, and they're running out to the 50 meter, and then they get stuck and they run out of time. So they need to have the wherewithal to maybe do a shorter run. So you might want to set up a cone, you know, at 25 meters and then at 50 meters for the round trip, so that if they can go out to the 25 and back before the time's up, then next round they know they only have to do another half round, right? So you could even put one at, you know, 10 meters, for example. And then that way they can go out and back, and they've got 20 meters done of their next round. So that way they're not dropping the sandbag outside and then abandoning it and then having to come back in for their next row, or trying to, you know, basically have to walk it in and not get credit for it. Of course, if somebody's really close, you know, if they're running in the last 20 feet or whatever, just let it count toward the that round, because they just get a little bit less rest, but it's going to be fine. It'll make everything a lot cleaner. So we got sandbags, or people can do bumper plate carry anyhow. So this one is a 45 for the ladies, and then a 25 plus a 45. They can carry it any way they want, as long as they're carrying it. No penalties for putting it down either. They can set it down as much as they want. And then we're going to do 10 hang power cleans with a bar or with dumbbells. And again, we don't want people to scale this row down too much, because then, you know, I don't want them doing these two movements for, you know, 4 or 5 minutes. I want them only doing it for 3-ish minutes, 3 to 4 minutes is going to be best. Otherwise, they may end up getting way too many rounds, and that's going to kind of change the nature of the workout. Again, can you talk it up a little bit and say this is kind of a little bit of a Murph prep, right? We're going to be doing some loaded running, just like we see in Murph. And then I went ahead and included another team version. So, and the team version is again, if you're really kind of stuck with equipment constraints, instead of doing a stagger start, you just have them share the row, one person at a time, and then they can do a partner carry, and then both partners have to have their own barbells or pairs of dumbbells, and they can do the hang power cleans at the same time, right? So there's really no rest here, because when you're being carried as a partner, you're still exerting energy. So that's kind of a fun one that you know, they can switch off too. So it's obviously they're going to be heavier than the prescribed sandbags, but they can trade off and all that. So that's another fun partner variation, team variation. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot, and thrive on.